Thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. So I always get a little bit, I don't know really, like a bit nervous. I think it's probably the right word. When I come out, first thing in the morning. If you watch me regularly, you know I'm generally out for sunsets, but I think with a sunset, you've kind of got the whole day to prepare, both practically and mentally. Whereas a sunrise, of course, you can prepare the night before in terms of your planning. But I just feel like when you're driving to your location, you just don't really know what's going to happen. Oftentimes you're driving in the dark, so you can't really see what's happening with the sky properly. And I feel like you're proper at the nature of mercy and the morning itself, which, to be fair, is probably a good thing. But I think as somebody who's so used to shooting sunsets and having that approach, that when I do come out, I get a bit like nervous and think, oh gosh, am I going to miss some beautiful light this morning? But yeah, there's a lot of positives to it as well, and it's nice, it's nice just to be out in the morning for once. Beautiful. So I'm down sort of in the Patterdale area near Ullswater actually, and I was going to shoot down at the shores of Ullswater and just see what happened with the sunrise or the morning light, and it's a lot cloudier unfortunately than what was kind of forecast. So all I'm doing at the minute is just bringing myself away from the lake and just going to go for a bit of a wander around this beautiful valley that I definitely do not explore enough of, So yeah, probably a little bit of woodland, and fingers crossed something does happen with the light, because the forecast was decent. Oh goodness me, man, I'm legging it. It was meant to be a nice calm one this morning. Whoa. I'm already on my feet. I could just see off in the distance a tiny subtle little what looks like a red sky. I don't know how intense it is, but it's back across Ullswater. Fortunately, I'm not too far from his shores, so I'm gonna try my best to get down to the lake now and see if I can make something of that. Goodness me, man. Oh guys, I'll tell you what, first things first, I've had to take the old jacket off and the hat, the Herdwick hat, because it's not quite as cold as I'd anticipated. It's only about 10 or 11 degrees, it's not that cold, but I think that's just a reflection of how excited I am for autumn and winter. I almost brought the gloves out as well, but not quite. That is better. So, I'm really glad, that I rushed down to the lakeside here, because I think I've got quite a nice little shot here. Probably not the best photograph in the world, but my goal when I was up in them woods there was to try and make some of what was happening with the sky, that colour, and I think I've managed to do that. Now, what I was trying to do when I first got here, probably quite naturally in a way as a landscape photographer, was to try and use the shore of Ullswater here as a little bit of a leading line up to this little peninsula that's got 2 or 3 nice trees on it that then lean out into the background fells, like near Place Fell there, and then eventually into the sky. But I don't know what it was, it just felt wrong, it felt like there was maybe too much going on, and I think ultimately I was just shooting too wide, which I think, as photographers, it's always tempting to do that, especially when you're in such a beautiful location such as this. You want a lot in your frame. But I resisted that temptation and I ended up zooming in to, what am I in at here? Nothing mad, maybe like 85 mil, something like that. But I feel like it just crops my composition in a little bit more, and it's so much better because you know what? It's focusing the photograph on what caught my eye in the first place, in a real basic sense. Yeah, the little peninsula with the trees, fells in the background, a little bit of Ullswater down in the foreground, and then probably most importantly, the colour in the sky. And it was really nice. It was like these stripes of blue, sort of blue tones, and then pink tones, blue tones and pink tones. Wonderful. So like I said, I'm glad that I ran down here. Now, technically, a bit of a weird one, because we had a couple of birds chilling in the foreground, and I wanted to capture them. I wanted to freeze the motion of them, and they were sort of circling, flying around. I've taken a few, but I ended up shooting at f8, ISO 1600 to get me 1/250th of a second, just to freeze the motion of the birds as they're flying away. And it just looks great. You know, it adds a little bit to the photograph. And you know what, it all feels very Lake District, and especially around here, you know, I feel like I've managed to capture it quite well, maybe, in this photograph. I don't know. But we'll see how it turns out. Oh man, the birds are still flying around, they're teasing me. I've just been trying to get the best shot of them in the frame. I think they're just seagulls as well. Nothing special. Right, I want to get a little bit of a wobble on, because I want to get up into this woodland. It stayed clouded over, and I think that subtle light will look better up there rather than here, but this has been absolutely gorgeous down by Ullswater. What a treat. Right, I want to talk about the topic of today's video, actually, because this image has been a really good segue, I think, into it. And it's all about this skill that I feel like I've learned, especially over the past couple of years with my photography. And to be very honest with you all, it's been subconscious. I've not been actively trying to work on it. I feel like it's in a way just sort of happened. And it's all about visualizing the complete image, and actually visualizing when you're out on location taking a shot. You're actually pre-visualizing how you're going to post-process the image, as well as obviously what you're doing in the here and now, which probably sounds a little bit weird, but it's become a really important part of my whole workflow when I take a photograph. Look, if you're not into post-processing, first and foremost, that's absolutely fine. It just means that this is completely irrelevant. But I am, you know, it's a really important part of landscape photography, in my opinion, and it is for my images. And that's why when I'm out on location, I'm thinking about what I'm going to be doing with that raw file. I'm thinking about what are the limitations of Lightroom and Photoshop, what are the possibilities, what effect am I trying to get with this image in general. And like I said, this is a really good example. To me, this scene, which is basically this sort of framed area just up here with the peninsula, obviously you've seen the image already. I think it all looks a little bit like a painting, you know, and that's an effect that I'll try and replicate in post-production. You know, secondly, the light, you can probably see it on my face. Look, this side is subtle light, this side is shadow, same as the trees up there. That's something else I'll probably try and bring out in post-processing a little bit. You know, a tiny little bit of dodging and burning. Of course, the sky, I mentioned that when I was taking the image, it looks rubbish on the back of the camera because it's a little LCD screen. I'm sure it'll look rubbish when I've got the raw file back in Lightroom, but I know what's here in real life, and I know, again, what I can do in post-processing. You know, I understand my own skill level with post-processing. I know I can bring that colour back out in the sky. And yeah, I don't know, I just really thought that was worth mentioning in today's video, in case you've never really thought of it like that. You've never really approached your landscape photography like that. You know, maybe when you're next out and about, give it a try. But it's definitely helped my workflow when I'm taking photographs, like I said. And it's something that I think is very important. And going forward, I think I'll probably start thinking about it a lot more consciously now, especially after making this video. Right, let's get up to this woodland and see what we can do with this nice subtle light. So I think I'm onto quite a nice composition here, and let me tell you, it's took me a good old while, for me at least. Probably been working on this one for about 30 to 40 minutes now. And I say this quite a lot, but I just, in my opinion, it's just easier when you're out on the fells, when you're out in open landscapes, to compose photographs. You know, there's not a lot of subjects, there's not a lot of mess to work with, generally speaking, whereas when you're in the woodlands, absolute broken record, but it's just chaotic, isn't it? It's the complete opposite. But I don't mind it. I enjoy it. I enjoy the process of composition. So it's been a lot of fun. And like I said, I feel like I'm finally there. So I'll pop this image up on the screen for you now. Or this is sort of as I've composed it, you know. It's a little bit of a different crop actually when you do it as a video, but it's there or thereabouts. So you can see we've got this nice sort of prominent tree there. And he was the first thing that I noticed. He's got a nice little curve to him. The light's hitting him in a wonderful way as well. Like I said, down by the lake, we're getting this subtle light on the left-hand side and this subtle shadow on the right-hand side. So I wanted him sort of as sort of like a prominent subject in this frame as well, you know. I also think this is another good example of how I am pre-visualizing how I'm going to post-process this image. You know, I'll probably try and bring that light out on these tree trunks with a little bit of dodging and burning. You know, I'll play around with the color a little bit as well. And again, I just think that's really good practice. But going back to the composition, you can see we've got various tree trunks off in the background as well as we get deeper into the woodland. And all I've had to do really is just make sure that my camera is in the right place. Loads of small movements left and right, up and down. Height was so important with this photograph, just so that all of them tree trunks sort of line up from left to right in a real uniformed way, you know. Another thing that I found really important here, as it always is really when you're talking about composition, but more so in the woodland, is just making sure that everything in this whole frame, in my little box that I'm looking at on my LCD screen, really belongs there, you know, or at the very least it's thought about. I don't think you'll ever be 100% happy with your box, especially in the woodland. You might have one or two compromises, like I feel like I might have here, but it's all thought about, you know, right to the borders, right up into the corners and everything. And yeah, like I said, for the most part, it feels okay. So I've focused on this prominent tree here at f6, and I'm zoomed in actually just over 70 millimeters. So we're going to get a really nice fall off in focus as we go deeper into the image, which is brilliant. You know, that's going to give us a little bit of separation. ISO 64 and 1/1/6 of a second, which is actually a really slow shutter speed for the woods. But we haven't got any movement at all. We've got no wind at all. So there's no movement in the branches or the leaves or anything like that, or the ferns, you know, down in the bottom of the frame. So I can get away with that. But yeah, looks all right on the back of the camera. Again, thinking about what I'm going to be doing in Lightroom and Photoshop, and conditions aren't great, light's not perfect, but I think this is going to be quite nice. And you know, as I always say in the woodland, this is one that I could always return to in better light and in better conditions. But yeah, not bad. Oh, isn't it just quality, man? Like just kicking about in a woodland on a calm, still morning, just photographing it. It's an absolute privilege. It's such a treat. Oh, it's gorgeous. You can see like some of the, I think is it the silver birch start turning quite early, don't they? Some of them leaves are going yellow. I'm buzzing, man. I wanted to stop before I carry on to say another big thanks to today's video sponsor, which is Squarespace. If you've never heard of them, which is unlikely because of the class, Squarespace is an all-in-one platform that you can use to build your own website. It's exactly what I did. I've used them for years. And I think as photographers, it's just really good to have a portfolio, isn't it, online? It was a dream that I had years ago, and I decided to use Squarespace just for that. And then my business grew, fortunately, which is amazing, to the point where I wanted to like start selling products, my prints, my ebooks, calendars, all of these sorts of things, advertising my one-to-ones. And I use Squarespace for that as well. They've got some fantastic e-commerce options. So that's something to consider if that's something you want to do, or if it's something that you want to do down the line. They've also got wonderful customer service as well. As easy as it is to create your website using Squarespace, I did hit a few speed bumps along the way, and you likely will, but the customer service is that good. They're always there to help you out, you know, via an email or whatever. They were for me. But yeah, another massive thanks to them. If you'd like to give them a go, go to squarespace.com/Henry Turner and be sure to use the offer code Henry Turner at checkout if you like your free trial to get yourself 10% off your first purchase, which is wonderful. Yeah, let's crack on. I don't know about this one here. You know, the last woodland shot that I took, I felt a little bit more confident in the composition, at least. Probably the photographing in general, I felt a bit more confident. Yous have seen it. I haven't seen it. It might have been rubbish. But you know, yourselves, as photographers, when you're out and about, you just sort of get a feeling, don't you, when you're taking a shot as to whether or not you think it's going to be all right. This one, I don't know. I can't really figure out. You can see down here, we've gained a little bit of height, first and foremost, and we're sort of shooting down the way at these trees here. There's a group of 4, and they really just caught my eye. And yeah, I'm just trying to photograph it in a way that almost like the 4 trees themselves are it's strikingly obvious that they're the main subjects within this frame. I've got a little bit of the pathway down at the bottom, enough to sort of anchor the bottom of the image, but not enough to distract, I don't feel. Then there's also a fallen tree trunk serving the same purpose, really. And yeah, it's important actually, I've angled downwards so that I don't get any of the lake in the background, any of Ullswater. I feel like it's just a big bunch of highlights through the trees, too distracting. And I've also put the camera in, you know, like the 16:9 crop mode, just to cut off a little bit of the top as well. It was just unnecessary, it was a distraction. But yeah, I don't know, it looks all right on the back of the camera. I just don't know if the background's going to be too much of a distraction. I'm shooting at ISO 64 and 1/15 of a second, and I'm at f5.6. Was it f5 I was at? Has that just jumped up? Maybe I was at f5.6, yeah. Focused on one of the trees here in this group, and then I'm also about 50 millimeters, yeah. So hopefully we get a little bit of background blur, you know, a little bit of fall off in focus like I was looking for in the last woodland shot as well, just to try and stop that background from distracting too much from, like I said, the main subjects of this image, the 4 trees. But yeah, I don't know, I'm not sure. Oh goodness, yeah, so don't know if that one came out all right. I tell you what, it's been so nice to come out in the morning again. I did a post on social media the other day just saying, like, you know, the sunrise times are getting a bit more reasonable for me, at least now, that I'll probably try and get out for a few more, you know. But yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the adventure and the photography. As always, I really appreciate your support. And yeah, hopefully you'll tune in next week for whatever that adventure may bring. Be sure to hit the subscribe button. I'll see you on the next adventure. Out.